Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Alek Koberna. That's Matt Morrison eating a cosmic brownie, and Mike Wolfgang sits in the middle representing a team from down south. Well, guys, day 2 here, we're going to be talking about some more March Madness, but first things first, we got to get into some Horizon League baseball from this past weekend. Horizon League actually had probably the best weekend so far out of our teams in this league. Finally got some teams getting some wins out of the series, and it was a couple teams getting the wins. Milwaukee came out with a 1-0 sweep over Dayton. 2 games got canceled in that one. Dayton's looking like a really bad baseball team this season. Not a lot of hope coming out of that one. YSU split with New Orleans 2-2 in their series, and Wright State came out with a 2-1 series win over Indiana State. And get this, Purdue-Fort Wayne got their first win of the season.
Yes.
It only took them till their 15th game, but they are 1-14. They got one win against St. Louis in their series. So it was a better weekend. Got a couple of 5-win teams now in conference play. YSU, Northern Kentucky, and Milwaukee. Now we're the first place team, so YSU putting their name up there in the hat as we enter into conference play this weekend. But before we get to this weekend, North Kentucky has to take on Louisville on the road. Probably expect Louisville to take that game. It's going to be hard for these teams to find those conference wins. We've already kind of seen that so far. Oakland's got a matchup coming up against Rochester. Not sure about that one. I think that's more of a coin flip. Oakland's had a bad start to the season, so I imagine they're going to drop that one, but you never know. YSU's got a matchup against Pitt. It should be fun to see that here in the middle of the week on the road. Fortunately, can't go here at home, but I don't expect YSU to come out with a win. I expect a tight-fought ball game, but trying to get wins in those big games, especially in a one-game series, normally the better team comes out on top, and Pitt probably off to the better start to the season this year. Wright State has basically an in-city matchup against Xavier during the week, and Fort Wayne takes on Dayton. Fort Wayne could get their second win there. That Dayton squad, not very impressive to start off the season, guys.
No, not at all. Yeah, it's kind of depressing. I mean, it's not too depressing, but you want to see Ohio teams do good. So I don't know. It's horrible.
Yeah, I mean that's the big part of it, right? You want to see these Ohio teams do good. It feels nice for the state of Ohio, and obviously, Wright State getting back in the win category there and getting that first series win against Indiana State's got to feel good. Them being down south in Dayton as well. I mean, those matchups between those two teams should be fun as well if that ever comes up. But that's going to end it here. Quick little recap from the Horizon League weekend. We'll talk more Horizon League baseball on Thursday and get ready for the next weekend of events. We are going into week 5 of the season. Let's get to the main event, guys. March Madness, the previews. Back at it again here today. 7 more games to run down before Thursday's tip-off. Let's start out here, beginning of the show. Longwood, a team that had a fun end to the season, going up against maybe the most dangerous, underrated team in Tennessee in round 1. Finishing out the year, Longwood 9-1 and a 79-58 championship game win over Winthrop there in the Big Sky Conference. So, what are your guys' thoughts on Longwood coming into this one, or how do you feel about Tennessee as well? Both teams finished 9-1 in their last 10 games.
Longwood has a good name, by the way. It's a pretty cool name.
Longwood. Longwood. Yeah,
no, Tennessee. I mean, there's a lot of controversy on their seeding too. Maybe they should have been higher than some other teams that got number 2. So I'm interested to see, actually, particularly in this first round matchup, how they come out and play it, and if they end up advancing into some of the later rounds. If they use that to, if they're ticked off and they use that to their advantage, or if they just come out and play flat-footed because they're disappointed in their seeding. But they are where they are right now. 3 is still a good seed. They got a good matchup here, but I favor Tennessee more in this one. I think they're more athletic than Longwood. I don't know too much about Longwood, but
the Lancers.
What's that?
The Lancers. They're
Lancers.
all right. The Longwood Lancers. The Lancers of Longwood. Oh.
Okay.
Matt, just talk about the game.
All right. But I mean, yeah, I like what they've done on the year. I mean, Longwood, they finished out 8-9 in a row. They won to finish out the season, so that's pretty good. They beat, a good Winthrop team. They pretty much beat the heck out of Winthrop. So, I mean, it you never know what's going to happen. You can carry your momentum in through the tournament. You never know. So, but Tennessee is pretty tough. So.
Well, on my side of it, yeah, I mean, you're going to favor Tennessee in this game. It's a 3 versus 14 matchup. I know I picked one yesterday. I'm not going to be picking this one. I'm going to take Tennessee in this game. But Longwood, they're coming in about as hot as you can be at this point. Their loss to NC A&T 8 games ago, 70-62. There's their only month since we've hit the 2022 calendar flip. So they have been near perfect for 2.5 months up to this point. It's going to be hard for Tennessee, especially coming out here in that first round, a little bit of a break here throughout the week. If Longwood comes out hot, they rank 19th in the country in 3-point shooting at 37.9. Tennessee, a solid squad there, so that's probably what keeps them in it. But Longwood's coming in super hot. If they can get that shooting going early, they stand a good chance to pull that March Madness upset here in the first round. And this is the first time Longwood had ever finished above 500 in conference play, which, it's one of those seasons you kind of look at and go, all right, it was a great year, but it's a one and done type thing. They get into March Madness. Congratulations. But making their first appearance here, you don't normally see a win in your first appearance in the big dance. So their problems on the inside and their interior defense is going to become a problem. I mean, Tennessee full of athletes out there in the SEC, strong defense and a great offense. Not to mention Tennessee is battle tested up to this point. 12 top 25 matchups, and they came out with a 7-5 record overall, and not to mention also 4th in the strength of schedule, 7th in the NET rankings. So this Tennessee squad, they're kind of one of the teams I look at as maybe a big dark horse here for this March Madness run. What do you guys think of this Tennessee squad?
I definitely like them.
Longwood.
I definitely like. I mean, obviously they're going to beat. I think they're going to beat Longwood, but I mean. They've had a pretty tough season, and this side of the bracket. I mean, there's some teams in there that have kind of had off seasons a little bit. I mean, if Michigan somehow gets past Colorado State, I don't see that happening. But I mean, even Ohio State and Loyola Chicago are in there too. I mean, those are
and
teams,
Nova.
And Nova is in there too. Nova's been up and down. So
this might be one of the most difficult parts of a bracket to get through. I mean, you're talking about Colorado State, Michigan, Tennessee, Ohio State, Loyola Chicago, and Villanova.
Yeah.
A bunch of teams.
I don't think too highly of Houston either.
Everyone.
I don't think too highly of Houston either.
Well, they're not in that part of the bracket. They would only face them down in the Elite Eight. So don't even need to worry about that.
My bad. Okay.
But as far as this Tennessee team, Matt, they're a strong team. Maybe, like Alex said, maybe could be viewed as underrated coming into this. I like the guard play, too. I watched part of that SEC championship against who they play? Texas A&M, and I think it was Texas A&M, yeah. I like Ziegler. He's one of the better guards, too. So their guard play impresses me, too, but they also have some decent size up front.
It was against Kentucky, Mike.
Kentucky, was it? Okay, I couldn't remember.
69-62, they came out on top.
The championship game?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what they have listed down as the final game of the season for them, so.
Okay. But yeah, I like their guard play, and what we always say coming into this, you got to have some good guards that can shoot it too. So, actually, shooting all around your roster, but yeah, that's kind of what stood out to me. That I like about this Tennessee team.
So, with this Tennessee squad, what's the farthest that you guys can see this team going? I filled out one bracket, and I actually had Tennessee winning the whole thing in one of the brackets that I was filling out, not for this show. But I think they're such a sneaky team. And I mean, they're a 3 seed, so obviously they're not bad at what they're doing. And 1 and 2 seeds have always been in groups that you can't look at to be reliable. I mean, you see it every year. You get the top 1 and 2s always going down early on. You almost always lose a 2 seed by the time you get to the round of 32. You're most of the time down to 2 or 3 1 seeds by the time you get to the Elite Eight. And, you always have somebody sneaky coming up. In Tennessee, you look at, if you're going off historical statistics, they're one of the favorites to win this whole thing this year based off of historical events, what's happened before. Obviously, every season's a new one, but I think this Tennessee, at the worst, is a Sweet 16 team. At the best, can win it all. And so that probably puts them at a mid-range Elite Eight appearance for me. Is probably a solid set to where this team could end up.
That's where I have them playing. I have them playing Villanova in the Sweet 16. I got Tennessee taking it.
Yeah, I think I have them
up
losing
against the 1 seeded Arizona.
I think that's who I have them losing to. I think I have them losing to Arizona. So,
but they can make a run. They definitely have it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's go into maybe one of the most interesting and impossible games to predict because throw the seeding out the window for this one. Providence versus South Dakota State. To me, this is going to be one of the biggest toss-ups. When you look at if this is a 10-game series, I'm taking Providence. If this is a one and done like it is, South Dakota State is in there. It's one of just 2 30-win teams. They went perfect in the Summit League, 30-4 overall, finished 10-0, dominated the conference tournament with wins against Nebraska, Omaha, South Dakota, and then North Dakota State in a 6-point championship win. And not to mention, number 2 in field goal percentage in the country, number 1 in 3-point percentage in the country, 34th in free throw percentage, and not to mention, number 1 in the country in efficient field goal percentage. They run the most efficient offense in the country, led by sharpshooting senior Douglas Wilson. They got a sophomore backcourt mate in Baylor Shireman, and Shireman took home Summit League Player of the Year. Both he and Wilson were also all Summit League first players. Nate Watson has his handful on the side of Providence. And this is the one thing for me. When you look at Providence's shooting, they rank in the bottom 50% of the country that coming into this. And you're averaging a field goal percentage of almost 10 points more coming into this game. South Dakota State has the biggest potential for an upset, I think, maybe out of any 13 4-seeded teams. Now, I really like Providence, and I think I still might give them the edge because of one factor: defense. South Dakota State's defense ranks in the bottom of the entire country. I believe their defensive efficiency was 222nd in the nation, and you can see that in how many points they give up per game. They're giving up 6.4 more points per game coming into this one against Providence. To me, defense might be the biggest factor because the one thing out of Providence you've seen in the Big East, they know how to play some tough defense against some really great athletes. Now, they obviously lost a few games in there, but they played a lot less games than South Dakota State did. And the fact that, the losses are pretty much the same, you give Providence another couple of games to deal with, another 6 games in that schedule. I think they're probably got a similar record to South Dakota State, but I think this might be one of the biggest toss-ups in the bracket so far.
I picked this, and I'm picking South Dakota State to go to the Sweet 16.
They definitely have the shooting to be able to do it.
It's tricky. I don't know. I'm nervous about this game. I just don't know who to pick.
I don't know who to pick in any of these games. They're tough. It's March Madness.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest part. It's like I took the 5 versus 13 upset, or the big upset yesterday with where was
Vermont.
Vermont, Vermont taking down Arkansas in the 4 versus 13. Obviously, you get another one of these matchups here on the other side that's proving equally as difficult. To me, these 13 seeds with the automatic bids, they're just so far underrated that, these 5 versus 13s, really 4 versus 13, really shouldn't be considered. You shouldn't even be looking at the records at this point for these 2 games or seeding. This is a toss-up at the highest proportions.
Well, yesterday I was telling you guys Houston UAB was my upset. I changed my mind on that one. This is my upset. Or one of my
Cinderella teams. I might pick UAB against Houston. I might go back there and change it. I just might. It could very well happen.
We'll lock in till let's see how much longer we got left on this. We got 1 day and 22 hours till these brackets lock in. So
I guess I'm thinking.
Right. Basically 2 days, and once that ball tips, these things are locked. In that first game, so.
I don't know. Providence, they're a good team, but they haven't looked good against, competitive teams. And South Dakota State, this is one of the first times they're here, and they're not looking to go one and done.
The thing is, this same conference is Oral Roberts as well, and you saw obviously what Oral Roberts did last year coming out of this conference. So maybe a little bit of an underrated conference to be looking at coming into this. And Oral Roberts went to overtime against this squad. And we were talking about OR as one of the teams to make it back to the tourney this season, but that overtime win for South Dakota State over OR knocked them out. And obviously you're seeing Roberts not in this year's March Madness. And instead it kind of feels like South Dakota State's coming in with that same billing that Oral Roberts did last year, and a huge shot for the upset over Providence in the first round. And maybe the biggest thing for me in this one is we've seen Providence's shooting get sketchy at times, but it's the defense for me. I'm going to stick with Providence. Give me the Friars in this one. Mike, you gave me the lone man on the upset yesterday with Vermont. I'll pay it back here, and I'll take Providence over South Dakota State.
I'm gonna stick with Providence too. It looks too good for it to happen. It just looks
Right.
Too
It
good
almost
for
looks
it to
too
happen.
good to be true in this one.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You could say the same thing about my Vermont pick yesterday, though.
Yeah. Another one I was having.
You got to be
tricky-
ballsy in these picks.
Another one I was having problems with was LSU versus Iowa State. I
was too, but
yeah,
I'm not going to get into that one because
we'll get there eventually. Don't worry about it. We go talk about that game. Actually, that'll come all the way on Friday, so you got a while till we give up that one. And interesting for the state, the MAC champions, Akron. They're in the March Madness, baby.
Yeah.
They got UCLA. Not looking too hopeful for the Zippies, man. They got a huge win in the MAC championship against Kent State. It was massive. A 20-point win. Kent State, though, playing without their best player in that best few players in that first half due to self-imposed suspensions by the Kent State University on their own players. Due to it was a controversial music video that a couple of the players idiotically posted, and who knows what that game could have been if Kent State had their players in that first half as well. But as it stands, you got Akron, no wins against top 25. Strength of schedule ranks in the bottom 200 in the nation. You're going up against UCLA that's had 8 top 25 matchups, 10th in the net ratings, and number 13 in the strength of schedule. And they pretty much lead every statistical category coming into this one, points and points against wise. Field shooting percentages, though, do lean on the side of Akron, but just narrowly. So, it's fun to say what if. It's a 4 versus 13 to look at, but UCLA is coming out of this one. I got some strong thoughts about what this UCLA team can do. Obviously, coming off of a Final Four appearance last year, you don't expect them to make it all the way back, but you expect, since they're returning pretty much the entire roster from last year, they can make some noise in this postseason tournament because they have experience.
Yeah, they do. So,
what are your guys' thoughts here on this? UCLA.
Mike, go ahead.
I don't really give Akron too much of a chance, honestly. I mean,
I'm
UCLA,
good.
and the scary part is they could get on another big run because they haven't really been healthy too much this year. So once they get healthy, and like you said, they have most good amount of the players they had last year. So if they can do that,
Kent State team with the players that they had, I think if they would, if they wouldn't have done what they did, I think they would have beaten Akron, and I might have given them a chance because they had some good players. I've seen them a couple times, but Akron, I don't know. UCLA's just got too much talent. It's no.
Yeah, I mean they're one of those teams kind of riddled up there with some. NBA
I mean, I'd be happy as heck if Akron upsetted them. I wouldn't be mad at all. That I'm like, oh no, I wouldn't be mad one bit. I'd be happy. So.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it would be great for the state of Ohio to see it, but I'm taking UCLA in this game, guys.
Yeah, me too.
I think we all are.
Well, considering where UCLA sits, if they were to win this game, they got a really great shot at making it all the way down to the Sweet 16, and most likely a matchup against Baylor, UNC, or Marquette in that game. Well, how far do you guys think this UCLA squad could potentially go?
I got another shocker for you guys.
Yeah,
I think they're going to.
I got them playing. I got them playing St. Mary's. I got them playing St. Mary's in the second round. I got St. Mary's and we're beating them.
Okay.
I think, yeah. I guess St. Mary's as well.
You got UCLA dropping in the round of 32 to St. Mary's.
Correct.
You guys think? Okay. I don't know.
I like what I have seen from St. Mary's.
I got St. Mary's losing in the first round.
Nope.
That's my 12-5 upset. Wyoming or Indiana? I think they could both do it.
I don't have a 12-5 upset.
Who do they have to play? St. Mary's?
You guys don't have 12-5 upsets? Come on. It's one of the ones
I don't have that one. I'm looking at my other one.
Okay.
I don't even have one. Well, at
the
moment I don't, but if I'll have to change back to that Houston UAB one. I'll have to change back to that one then.
I think I'm going to stick with UAB. I don't know. I don't like what.
No, we'll get to those all eventually here on
the show. It's hard.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. It's hard.
Yeah, we're not that St. Mary's game. Official picks don't come until tomorrow's show, so we all got to get ready for that. But interesting. Yeah, we'll talk about St. Mary's more tomorrow on it. But I got UCLA, a potential team to make it to the Elite Eight. I think they got a shot if the cards turn the right way, and especially if St. Mary's goes down in that first round. UCLA has a clear path to the Sweet 16, and most likely a matchup against Baylor, in my eyes, maybe UNC. And that's a game in a one-game series I could see UCLA coming out on top of, and going down into the Elite Eight. They got a shot, but I think that's where their cards could potentially run out. they got a max of Elite Eight to me. I don't think they get past there. And obviously, worst case scenario in my eyes is around a 32 loss for this team. So I think UCLA is a promising school to look at. If you're going with one of those maybe dark horse teams, I didn't like the Pac-12 this season. That's kind of where I'm a little wary on them. But I think they got as good a shot as anybody of the 5 seeds and under.
I mean, yeah, they do. Like I just said, if they get healthy, man, it's going to be
right.
That's been really the only thing holding back.
Everybody coming back at the moment, besides the 2 guys that are out for the season, in Will McClendon, who's been out with a knee injury since September, for a while now, and Mac Etienne as well, who's also out for the season. So they got everybody else coming back healthy.
So we'll see what they can do. Get everybody healthy.
Yeah. Should be an interesting game, no doubt, for UCLA, and whatever that second round matchup may be, should be a great one. This is one of the biggest games I'm looking forward to here in the first round, and it's not my Buckeyes. It's Murray State versus San Francisco, the Dons and the Rangers going 1-on-1 in the 7-10 matchup. I love this one, guys. What about you?
Your 2 teams, Alek.
Yeah, I mean, these are 2 teams we've been talking about for a while.
Yeah. I had a hard time picking this one, but I just went with
me too. I
went with Murray State.
I stuck with Murray State here as well, but
you know,
you can argue San Francisco's. They might even be seated too high in this one.
A lot of people had Murray State winning next round too against who they had to play. Somebody big.
Kentucky.
Yeah, a lot of people had them upset in Kentucky. Really? I don't know. They're good. They're
possible. The only thing right now for Murray State, 190th in strength of schedule. That's the one thing for me.
Yeah.
And really, if I was to put Murray State against San Diego or South Dakota State, I'd probably have South Dakota State being that team. But I like Murray State's matchups going into this better than I did with South Dakota State, because you saw Murray State really just tear through the end of the season. I mean, they were phenomenal. They dominated that conference tournament play. And this is maybe the top mid-major team that could make this run. And I mean, you see it every season. There's always somebody able to do this. And you know, ever since they won that 5-12 matchup back in 2018, 2019, that March Madness tournament, they've really kind of turned around. And that came from, you know, they have future NBA star and John Morant. Now you're looking, who is that next guy to come out of Murray State and be that man? And right now it's KJ Williams and Tevin Brown, both first-team All-OVC selections. KJ Williams averaging 18 points per game with 8.5 rebounds on just 28 minutes. He's really had a phenomenal season. And maybe the best thing about this game, both teams are coming in perfectly healthy. No injuries on the report right now. But it's going to come down to Jamari Boye for San Francisco to have that big game. He averages 16 points per game, just 5 rebounds and 4 assists. So the numbers are there. But he also does that in 36 minutes. If you put KJ Williams out there on the floor for the same amount of time, he's going to be outscoring Jamari Boye probably 25, 26 to that 16 mark. So it's a huge differential to give up there if KJ Williams can have his best marks. And if you can get Tevin Brown to start working as well from the outside, get his shot to flow, their 3-point numbers are pretty much even. It's 35.3 versus 35.4 in this game, so you can't give the edge there. But field goal statistics, 47.9 from the field this season. Murray State ranked 21st in the nation. Just a couple of percentages more, they're up there in the top 10 in the country. Both teams really banned the free throw line, something to watch out for as they get later into the tournament. But yeah, I got Murray State to take this game. I think they're a talented squad, and obviously I was willing to throw them up there in my top 10 at the end of the season. I believe what this team can do is upset Kentucky, because Kentucky's a team that I haven't been 100% confident on this season.
I don't think they have enough chemistry.
Rough strength of schedule, man, but I think that loss to Tennessee down in the late stages in that conference tournament, I think it was a killer to the momentum Kentucky was about to bring into this postseason, because I really felt, they were building up some wins. They took 2 losses to Tennessee in their last 10, though, and another one to Arkansas. They were falling down the SEC in the end of this season. I think they're, as I said a few times, they were on their way out of the top 10, and they just hadn't stumbled enough to get there by the end of it. I think this is a team that, they say don't move all your top 2 or all your 2 seeds to that round of 32. I don't think they get upset by St. Peter's, but I don't think they're a Sweet 16 team. They might get there based on, an easier ride if Murray State isn't, as great against San Francisco as I think they could be. But, Kentucky, they got an easy path to the Sweet 16, but I don't count them as an easy given.
Yeah, the thing with Kentucky, I don't think they have enough chemistry together as a team. Like, they have some good players, don't get me wrong, but some of these guys are one-year guys. They just use that top school to show off their name for the NBA draft. Guys like, Oscar Tshiebwe in there. I mean, they don't have enough chemistry. Guys from Murray State do. Those guys stay there for a while. Even John Morant stayed a little bit. So they have chemistry. I believe he did. I don't think he was 1 year and out. But I like the teams. I like the teams that have been with each other for a while. And I'm like, hey, this team is dangerous. Look how long they've been together. Look at Loyola Chicago. Look at Ohio State.
Yeah, that's what makes a team like Loyola so consistent, is because they do bring that same roster back, and that's why you see a lot of these same teams stay in March Madness for 2-3 seasons, because they have a solid roster that sticks around. And that's why you see teams like Kentucky, Duke, Gonzaga. They're always kind of teeter-tottering and moving around, because they do have a roster that shuffles. But if anything, it shows you the consistency of maybe the coaching in that. And Oscar Tshiebwe is a junior for Kentucky, but he hasn't played in all of his seasons so far. He hasn't been there. Good. He was at West Virginia, I believe, earlier initially in his career.
Okay.
Before making the switch.
Okay. So still though, I mean,
yeah,
I look for that.
We'll talk more about Kentucky as we get into this postseason. We got a long ways to go.
Matt, that's what makes it good about these Cinderella teams.
Talk about.
Yeah,
they play hard because they've been playing together and they know how to play with each other.
Yep.
Well, next game to look at here, another 5 versus 12 matchup. We seem to be putting all the hard ones on the slate today. I may have messed up and put all these ones on here, because now there's no going back to change them at this point. UConn and New Mexico State out of the WAC. 82% of people took UConn coming into this game, but maybe New Mexico State is one of those teams to watch out for. The only thing for me is they can't shoot it from the outside. Great on the inside, but you force this team outside, and obviously with UConn being such an NBA talent-ridden team, I mean, you got the biggest guy on the inside, the 6'9", Adamo Sanogo. His interior presence is just going to make this nearly impossible for New Mexico State to have a great day on the inside like they're used to. In UConn, they play the outside perimeter so well. I mean, whether you got your outside guy in Tyrese Martin or RJ Cole, who's one of the highest rated point guards coming out of the draft this season, obviously also the leading scorer for UConn coming into it. You got a dangerous combination for this UConn team, and potentially a team that could also make it down to the Sweet 16.
Mike, what do you got?
I thought, this one of your teams you were talking about this year or no? That's why I was going to kind of let you go.
No, you can go ahead.
I got UConn winning this one too, but this is kind of another hard 5-12 one to pick, Alek. Again,
yeah. I'm gonna go UConn. I'm gonna go UConn as well. I talked about them a little bit, but not as much as like Murray State. But I mean, or the Loyola. But I mean, like Alek, you were saying, like they got some NBA talent on there, so
they're well coached.
They're gonna be so. Nothing against New Mexico State, but I mean, UConn is just some of these teams. Some of these 12-5 matchups are very hard to pick, and some of them are like clear cut. We know, so those ones are going to be.
I don't know if this one's as clear cut, but I think it's just the matchups are there right now for UConn to make it. And when you got New Mexico State also shooting under 70% from the free throw line this season, they're in the bottom 40% in the nation right now in that statistical category, and they're in the same spot with the 3-point percentage. So when you put those two numbers together, it doesn't bode well in a tournament game, because you have to be able to play inside and outside, and maybe that's going to be the one problem with UConn. They're not a great interior shooting team. If that outside shot isn't there, it could be an upset for New Mexico State, though.
Yeah, it could be.
I got UConn losing in the next round, though, so I have them winning this one, but I don't have them going too far.
Yeah, I have them losing.
I might have them losing to Vermont as well in the next round.
Oh, man, you have them going, man.
I might have Vermont in the Sweet 16 against Gonzaga. They might even be in the Elite 8. Who knows?
You gotta pick one surprise team. You have to.
Yeah, you do.
At least to go to the
Sweet 16. You know what?
16,
if it's not going to be Vermont, oh well. At least I went out swinging for the fences, man.
You have to have one team, unlikely team, at least going to the Sweet 16.
Rutgers. Oh.
No, I'm talking like mid-major, like small teams.
South Dakota State,
Yeah.
even
Okay.
maybe a Providence type team or Murray State, or a
Colorado
team
State.
about in the
How about
future,
Colorado
Jacksonville
State?
State.
They could.
Colorado State, maybe?
Yeah, Colorado
they're a
State is a
6 seed.
definite. I mean, the fact that they're a 6 seed right now, they got one of the best chances that of any kind of mid-major team to go.
Yeah, they do.
All right, well, we all took UConn in this game. Next game to look at here, Richmond versus Iowa.
This is tough.
Probably give Iowa the upside on my side at least, but Richmond, I mean, they finished so strong, and that was maybe the biggest thing looking at them, the way they came out of that Atlantic 10 tournament and the final 3 games, VCU, Dayton, and Davidson, they came down to the wire in all of them and somehow pulled that upset over Davidson. I think that's the one thing everyone's going to be looking at is they upset Davidson, the by far favorite to come out of the Atlantic 10 in that final game.
Wow.
So this Iowa team, I know a lot of people are picking them to go to the Final Four as a 5 seed. But
yes,
for some reason, I have
like
been playing.
Keegan Murray. Keegan Murray is the only reason.
Oh, yeah, he's sweet. But if they were to play South Dakota State like I predicted, I have South Dakota State beating them because I just don't. Even if they were to beat South Dakota State and play Kansas, I don't think they're beating Kansas.
They get beaten up.
Exactly, they're a Big Ten team. I just don't think their style of play. That's kind of why these Big Ten teams don't really go far, Matt, because their style of play.
They get beaten up.
They play too slow, and these other teams.
I like the Big Ten teams, I do, but I'm not too high on them. Not too high on the SEC teams either.
Don't jump on any West Coast teams. They've been on just as big as a drought as the Big Ten.
Yeah, them too. West Coast teams. Yeah. So I don't know. It's difficult. I'm still going to pick Iowa in this game, but I don't think they're going to go as far as a lot of people think.
I think it's going to be close, though.
It's going to be close.
It's got the potential, but here's the numbers for me that kind of give me this edge. When you look at what Iowa has done this season and compared to Richmond in the numbers category, field goal percentage, top 50 in the country. 3-point percentage, top 50 in the country. Free throw percentage, top 70 in the country. Their numbers are all there statistically. Not to mention they might have the best scorer in the country in Keegan Murray, who probably should be shooting up draft charts. But much like Luka Garza last year, they need somebody to play differently than this team style to make a far run. I got them as an easy, no question to get past Richmond. Richmond's got a bunch of injuries that they've had to deal with all season long, and I think that's going to bite them here. Iowa, and Keegan Murray's up there for the player of the year. And,
He's sweet.
They obviously had to say goodbye to Garza, who was player of the year conversation last year. This team is just filled with so much talent. I think their defense made a big step up this season. It still needs to get a lot better, though. It's probably why they're not going to make that Final Four appearance like a lot of people think they could. But I got their shooting coming to the forefront in this game, and I got them taking over and taking down Richmond. And that 5-12 upset's not going to be here.
That's fair.
That's fair. Yeah. All right.
Well, Matt, I'll give you the chance to criticize Kentucky here because we're talking Kentucky versus St. Peter's round of 64.
Well, I'm not
98% of people picked Kentucky to win this game. Probably a fair statement. Congrats to St. Peter's for getting here, but they averaged 13 less points per game than Kentucky this season on a strength of schedule that is, let's see, how far back is this one? 116 places back than Kentucky. So there's 119 teams separating these two in the NET rankings. And statistically, Kentucky shot 14th in the nation in field goal percentage. The 3-point shooting is a little bit worse than St. Peter's, but not by much. Not enough to make a difference in this game. So the cards just aren't playing right for St. Peter's unless they have an absolutely epic night from the floor, because I don't think their defense is good. It's not going to be good enough, though, against the talents like Oscar Sheboy.
Who's 2% that picked them? Probably the St. Pete's.
Right, their fan base or alumni.
I picked them. No.
Yeah.
I'm not going to critique them much here. They're going to dominate this game. But, I mean, I like this Kentucky team. Actually, I think I have them going all the way, actually, but losing it. But, I mean, Oscar Sheboy is the main reason why I pay attention. I mean, they have other good players, too, but Sheboy is the main front, and, I mean, he leads everything. So, I mean, all the focus is going to be on him. So if you stop him, if Murray State or even if the Dons get past Murray State, you stop Oscar Sheba, you got a pretty good chance of. I'm not going to say it's going to be a given that you're going to win, but you have a pretty good chance to keep up with them. You just got to keep him under control.
You got to rely on number 2 to win the game. And, Kentucky, they got a good number 2, especially with Ty Washington. I mean, a young freshman who's already getting some, making some big noises for Kentucky. And I mean, if it wasn't for Oscar, he's probably their number 1 guy. So Kentucky, for me, the biggest problem is they have a number 2. And so it's going to take a lot from another team to be able to stop them. And I don't know what other teams are really going to be able to have those matchups, but maybe the one thing for Kentucky this season, you've seen them slip up. So even when those top guys, they played great against the bottom half of the SEC, we saw it in that final stretch against teams like Tennessee and Arkansas. They fell through in big games. And that leads me to believe when I got Kentucky going down in the round of 32 against Murray State, I think the possibility is there because you've seen Murray State just be very consistent all season long in their shooting. And, it's a bold pick to take Murray State over Kentucky, but there's something about this team all season long that I haven't been able to have confidence in them.
You know what? You can say
I agree.
Most of these higher seeded teams you can also say it about because it's, again, we've been covering college basketball all year. When Kentucky's a team that I'm going to say this about, we start getting on the bandwagon, something happens. So coming to this tournament, there's a lot of teams you can say it about, and that's what makes it hard to pick these games.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, we're all taking Kentucky in this game. There's no chance that they're getting upset going through this one. But St. Peter's, congratulations, man! Great season to get here. Obviously, though, if you get a 15 or a 16 spot, more than likely you're getting dropped out pretty quick. I mean, they didn't even have 20 wins on the season in a strength of schedule that was 128. They got lucky down at the end, a one-and-done-esque season out of the Mid-Atlantic, taking down Monmouth in the championship game. They're, the top competition in the MAAC got knocked out pretty quickly. So in their conference tournament. So I didn't really think there was going to be any opening outside of maybe Siena to make any kind of moves into March Madness. And obviously getting this first round matchup against Kentucky isn't going to do anybody any favors.
Matt, you were saying yesterday you feel bad for these teams.
Yeah.
I feel bad for these teams.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to do it here for our college basketball talk for the day. We'll get into another 7 games tomorrow. Still a long ways to go. We got 21 games left on the slate before this thing is into the round of 32 on Saturday. So we got a long ways to go. Should be a lot of fun. But let's go ahead and jump into the NBA. How about we talk a little bit about the Cavs last night, man? Great performance against the Clippers. And I like that the Cavs did something for Ty Lue as well with the championship that he won here, getting back into the arena. Great program they put up there. And then, of course, the Cavs winning in overtime against the team from LA. Always great.
Absolutely. I mean, I was watching this whole game. Garland went off. Kevin Love did his part.
And also season high for Evan Mobley in points.
Career high. Yeah.
Season career. Same thing.
Windler got some playing time as well, so it was nice to see him playing.
Yeah, just 12 minutes, no points. But, I mean, hey, rebounds are always a big boost, especially with Jared Allen being out for who knows how long. If you can rely on Lamar Stevens, who got a little bit more playing time too, or Larry Markkinen to get those rebounds it's going to help out a big step.
Markkinen was in a complete zone last night. He hit that dagger to pretty much wrap it all up. As soon as that ball was in the air, I'm like, it's over. He's got it. He rarely misses those. He makes a lot more than he misses.
Right, and I really love what the Cavs have been building here. I mean, the past few years, you always kind of question, especially with the Okoro pick, man, getting all these defensive guys in here, and you're waiting for the offense to finally kick off, and now you're getting it with, a defensive sleuth like Mobley, who's also great at defense. Garland, obviously, in section, both 2 great defenders with amazing shooting abilities. So I'm really liking how things are falling together. And I think it's something you go back 3 years when they were kind of starting this rebuild after the, departure of James. And it just seemed like question mark after question mark with draft picks, all the trades. I mean, I don't think anybody was really all that happy with Jordan Clarkson, initially dropping guys like Larry Nance Jr. earlier in the offseason, sending them out west. There's a lot of guys that, Cleveland was faithful to, and, the front office went, we're moving on. And I think, myself included, wasn't always happy with those moves, but you can't argue with the results right now. And maybe one big thing out of this game, Cedi Osman had a bad game, a terrible game, in fact. And we still won the game. And I think that's maybe one of the best things because he's been such a strong sixth man with Kevin Love off the bench. Those two have really been a great combination, and also getting Karis LeVert back in the lineup was huge for this team.
Yeah, that was nice.
And I'm really loving what this team put together. And maybe the only downside still for the Clippers is, can you imagine what this team could have been if they had their guys healthy? Could you imagine what they might be right now?
A couple things that stood out to me. You kind of stole some things I was going to say, but no, getting LeVert back, we've been talking about just another guy, not even just a ball handler, but he's one of the only guys on their roster that can go get his own shot. And he showed that last night. A couple plays broke down. He just made his own shot. And obviously you could talk about with Okoro. His offensive game's not for number 5 pick. It's not all the way there as you'd like to see. But his defense is so valuable to his team. He's their best defender. His scrappy and grittiness is kind of what makes them what makes their culture what they have. And the last thing is, this Clipper team I talked about yesterday before the game. And you even talked about having the 2 stars out, Alek. You got to give them their credit because where they are in the standings right now, they came in last night against the Cavs team. It's at home. They needed to win, and they pushed them to the limit, pushed them to overtime. So, I'm talking about Okoro being scrappy. How about the whole Clipper team being scrappy?
Well, yeah, to your point there, Mike, about, their stars being out and kind of what I mentioned, that's what got these stars to come there in the first place was their willingness to fight even without superstar talents on the squad. And that's what is drawing free agents to the Clippers squad like it did with, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So building this team up again, I mean, they're obviously in the potential race for that final one of those play-in spots. They're an 8 team right now and sitting 7 games ahead of the Lakers. They're sitting pretty good right now with, as we mentioned yesterday, 14 games left in the season. It's going to take a lot for the Lakers to overcome them and take them out of this spot. So you look at it, and the Clippers look pretty much solidified to end this thing out with a playoff spot, or at least a play-in spot.
Zubac is an incredible inside presence, but man, they were on him last night, blocking every putback he tried to put up. Okoro was in there. Mobley was mostly Mobley, but man, he was so frustrated. This totally got into his mindset, and they made him play with anger, and that just didn't work out. He was so frustrated by the end of that game, getting blocked, and those are clean blocks too. That one block that Goodwin came flying through the air and blocked one. I'm like, oh my gosh. The small dude coming flying through the air and just blocks the shot right out of the hands of him. I'm like, oh my gosh. It was amazing. It was amazing to watch.
Yeah. Really was. So. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump in here into today's game, actually tomorrow's game. Mavericks and the Nets, maybe a great one. Nets took the first game in the series back on December 7th in a 3-point win. Now they host it this time out. I really like these two teams going up against one another, and obviously they're both kind of finding a rhythm here in the late stages of the season. And I feel like you talk about this every year with the Mavericks. They always seem to find a rhythm down the stretch, and then they get to the playoffs and they completely fall apart. They're a 5 seed right now, and 42-win squad. They'd be sitting as a 3 seed if they were in the Eastern Conference with that record. They've been pretty good on the road, and that's been a big part of this so far. 19-14, won 8 of their last 10, and you've obviously seen the Knicks kind of go up and down. They seem to look like they're going back on and up despite winning just 4 of their last 10. They're on a 3-game win streak right now. So they're getting back in the win category, much like you want to see the Cavs continue to do through this hard push. The Nets are an 8 seed right now. If they want to be where they believe they can be, they're in the final stretch of the season. It's time to make those wins stand up, put a few of them more together. And obviously 3 in a row. They got, the Magic coming up tonight, Mavericks tomorrow, then Trailblazers and Jazz. They have some winnable games on the ledger, but they got some, hard games to finish out the season. So it looks like an easy path for the Nets to make it, but you can never count a team in or out at this point of the season because a one bad slide and you're out, and it opens the door for a team like the Wizards to potentially jump in and pounce on this potentially.
I'll tell you what, you guys are doing this. You guys are doing this on purpose to me now, picking all these Dallas games.
Oh, I didn't pick this game.
Here, Mike, I'm taking Dallas to win this game against the Nets. There you go.
Okay, I'm kidding. I was just kidding.
I'm taking the Nets. The Nets, man, that game I saw last week, they just came into Philly and this man handled the 76ers. Like, they blew them out. I'm sitting there watching Kyrie Irving. I'm like, oh, my gosh. Like, he still has it. He can still move inside and do all that same magic stuff
won't be in this
that he
game,
did
though.
in Cleveland. What?
He won't be playing in this game, though. It's in Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So he won't be playing. Oh, but, I mean, Kevin Durant was still going off as well. Kevin Durant, I mean, still one of the best shooters in the game. right now. He can.
He's the best player in the game in my eyes right now in the world.
He's a heck of a player still. So,
but I told you guys I'm going to keep picking Dallas
Kyrie
teams because it's just like me picking Cavs teams. But I'm going to pick Dallas, and I think the loss of Kyrie kind of affects that because, Dallas isn't a huge team with scoring wise. They got Dinwiddie and Doncic and some other guys like role players, but Luka can account for some of that. And getting Dinwiddie acclimated, I like what he did against Boston on Sunday, and I like what some of the other guys like Dorian Finney-Smith did. They stepped up.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're playing good basketball right now, and the Nets are just too inconsistent. It's hard to pick their games. So,
Matt, you were wondering about Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
New York City did lift their vaccine mandate for indoors, but the private sector mandate still restricts Kyrie Irving. So the private sector is not allowed to have that. He can come in
he's
as
still
a
going
spectator.
And watching the games.
Yeah, he can come as a spectator, but he's not allowed to participate. In fact, the Nets actually got fined the other day because Kyrie Irving came back into the locker rooms halftime or post-game or pregame. I don't remember when it was, but it's definitely going to be a huge impact, especially playoff games. And you might be looking at it now like the Nets might not be looking too bad if they are an 8 seed. You get Kyrie Irving maybe in a game 7. And I think that might be the most important thing. We're talking like, oh, you want the higher seed, whatever. But when it comes to a game 7, obviously you want home atmosphere first. But if one of your best players might not be able to be there, we don't know what the developments are going to be like the next 3 months, as we get down into the playoffs and finish this thing out. So you never know what those mandates could change. But at the moment, I think I'd almost plan to have Kyrie in that game 7 rather than, be a top seed because you have the talent. The talent performs on the road just fine. They're 21-15 on the road, actually better than they are at home. So when you look at that home and away splits right now, yes, I want a road game right now for the Nets if I'm part of that team. 14-18 at home. That's one of the worst records out of the top teams. Actually, it is the worst record out of the top, 8 seeds in either conference. They're one of the only squads without 20 wins at home, actually. I mean, you look behind them, and the rest of them that don't have it are the Hornets, who are 16-17, the Wizards, the Knicks, the Pacers, the Pistons, and the Magic. That's one of the worst marks in basketball right now.
Jeez.
Yeah, so if the Nets are at home, don't pick them.
Yeah, well, if they had
that's where they're at. So, yeah. I'm taking the Mavericks.
Different.
What?
That record might be a little different if they had him at home. But
it would be very different if they had Kyrie at home. I mean, you're losing 25 points per game, not to mention probably 6-7 assists, maybe a rebound or two. Also, his defense is obviously going to be absent from there, and those steals can add up, and transition points can get you out of Kyrie Irving alone probably another 4 to 5, 6 points a game, and that can all be huge in turning around a game like that, especially at home, especially in a playoff scenario. You never know what 25 points here and there could do, and not to mention the assist to get extra points. So I mean, overall, you're probably losing more like 37 points, 35 points a game by not having Kyrie Irving on the floor.
Losing a big time player.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that number like that, because you have to put, what those points coming off of his assists look like too. And when you look at a guy who's basically going to get you a 35-point game, whether those are coming from his points or assists, you cannot afford to lose that. And that's what's been happening when they've had to go home. Especially when he's been a key part of your offense. That's the thing when you look at the Clippers. Yeah, they don't have 70 points between, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, but they haven't had that all season. They've been playing that without it. When you're now working with the Nets, who are playing basically one game with them, one game without them, it's disrupting the entire flow. And when they go back to home and they have to try and put, have somebody else fill Kyrie's spot, it just doesn't work with them. And that's maybe the biggest thing so far. I don't have confidence the Nets will win a home game in playoffs.
Yeah, because, you're having guys step up at home where they have to have a reduced role on the road. So,
yeah,
it affects everybody.
Everybody kind of building that momentum going through a series of games because you have somebody just coming in and out of the roster. It doesn't really work all that well. And, you kind of even seen it in the playoffs, even with Kawhi Leonard, the way he doesn't play during the season, steps up great in the postseason, but you always feel there's kind of this rift between the players and management and Kawhi Leonard based on the scenario. And I think you're going to start seeing this kind of develop more and more, especially if you get to the postseason and, Kyrie's going great on the road and then you come back home and the team looks like nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we always talk about in the playoffs, role players step up a lot better at home. Well, not only that, they're going to have added pressure on them with Kyrie not playing. So it's going to be tough for them from this time now to wherever they end up in the playoffs to try to play better at home because they haven't really done that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the NHL. Sorry, I'm just checking to make sure we haven't had any more updates from the crazy NFL offseason so far. But let's jump into the NHL.
Yeah.
Jump into the NHL. We got the Avalanche and the Kings tonight at 10:30 in Los Angeles. Really a great game, man. This Kings squad's at second place in the Pacific Division, 6-3-1 in their last 10 games. The only problem for me is their defense is so terrible. They can score, but they just don't ever seem to be able to hold their own defensively, especially it seems all these games for them are 2-1 in a lot of these matchups. And, one game they'll let up 5, the next game they'll score 5. There's so many inconsistencies with the Kings, and coming off a win against the Panthers last night, I think they slipped back up again and dropped this one to the Avalanche. The Avalanche, they've been struggling really in their last couple of games. I mean, they don't seem to have that consistency they once had earlier in the year, which allowed them to get out to such a huge lead in the Central Division. But I'm still going to roll with the Avalanche here. They're one of the favorite teams out of my differential system so far. So I got to keep rolling with the team that's gotten me to this point. So I'm going Avalanche in this game. And I don't know if I consider them to be top 2, but that's where my differential has them as the number 2 team in hockey based off of my point system.
Go ahead, Matt.
I'm going to go Kings here. You know how I feel about the Avalanche. I think they're a good team, but yeah, the Kings.
Another team Matt hates.
Yeah.
I don't think he hates them.
I don't hate them. I just think they're
views them as overrated.
Yeah. But the Kings team, their defense is not that good, but they can score. I mean, they can score more than they can defend. So I think that if they keep that up, and I mean, the Panthers have the same problem. They'll score and then they won't defend the same. They won't defend one game and then defend the next game. Stuff like that.
They can't.
So hopefully that can. Yeah, I know it's too much. But the Kings, they've been doing the same thing all year, and it's been working out for them. And like you said, the Avalanche is on a skid. I don't think they're going to come out of it against a tough team like this who has a lot of offense to throw at you. So I'm going to go the Kings here.
I'm going to go Kings, or I'm going to go Avalanche. I mean, they have a lot of offense on the Kings side to throw at you too. But, I mean, obviously the Avalanche, 42-13, they have offense to throw at people too. You got 42 wins. So,
yeah.
I like them to get a bounce back win, a tough game at home because wherever this place is called now, or Staples Center, whatever it's called now, it's hard to play there in hockey.
Crypto
is that what it is
now?
now?
Arena or something.
Okay,
something like that.
But yeah, it's a tough place to play for hockey too with the Kings, Matt. But I like the Avalanche to get a.
It's still the same arena, with the acoustics and stuff. So obviously.
Yeah.
It's been we'll just call it the Staples Center. It's always been a hard game for anybody in any sport to come in there and try and take down a home spot. So
just like where the Caps, but I still call it the Q. Just
right.
What I'm used to.
Well,
the Guardians are still going to be playing in the Jake, so
yeah,
always be Jacobs Field.
Yep,
it's always Jacobs Field.
Progressive Field just doesn't have the same ring to it.
Some people still call it Gun Arena for the Caps.
Yeah, that's what my parents call it. It's the gun.
Just what you grew up with.
It's just a name.
Yeah. Well, quickly here, why don't we have any thoughts on the NFL offseason so far, Matt? You've had really the big acquisition so far, so I guess I'll let you go with Mitch Trubisky as the next quarterback for the Steelers here on a contract that he's earning less money than the Browns' backup quarterback in Case Keenum.
Yeah, I mean, I like.
It's a very lucrative
people. Before I talk about this, what's his name?
Well, with that though, it's a bargain deal for you're getting a guy that
here it is.
He is very athletic.
He can run. Chance. Okay, listen to this. First of all, I like the signing of James Daniel for the offensive line.
I do too.
Bears, and he's from Warren, Ohio. He went to Warren G. Harding, so I like that. And he went to Iowa, so Iowa makes some pretty tough offensive linemen. So that's good there to sign. And they signed a couple other offensive veterans.
Somebody else I saw today. I can't remember who.
Someone else I forget. But that's good, sign the offensive lineman. But I like the Mitchell Trubisky. I do. He's more mobile. I like that. And everybody's saying, Matt Canada's a horrible offensive coordinator. Well, Matt Canada, most of his plays are play action and quarterback runs. Like that's how.
Yeah, as long as the quarterback's moving, Ben couldn't do that.
Which Ben could not do.
Ben couldn't do that. Ben couldn't
not
do that.
In the late stages,
he just sat back there in the pocket and tried to get that ball out. That's why he had the quickest release in the NFL for a couple of years because he couldn't afford to get hit as much. and he can't move around. So now that we have a mobile quarterback in Trubisky, I like that. But one thing is, it's good to have offensive line, but I think he takes too much time out of the pocket that makes the offensive line do too much, and that I think is going to hurt him. So,
I think your holding numbers are going to be up a little bit higher than they have been in the past because Big Ben did have such a quick release because he didn't want to get hit. I think holding is going to go up and your penalties are going to see a dramatic shot, and that might be the most dreadful part of what this season is going to be if the penalties are going to hurt. But I think you got a better chance of going a 10-win season with Mitch Trubisky than you did with Big Ben in those final few years because I think this is a very talented quarterback. He got stuck in, a terrible system with Chicago and the offense.
And he still let him do the playoffs.
And that's what Chicago has learned from as well. They're trying to build this offense back up this postseason, which is great to see. But, it hurt Mitch Trubisky in that part of his career. He got a lot of criticism for working with pretty much nobody on that offense. And I like what he's coming into here in Pittsburgh, especially if Pittsburgh can get since they're signing a bunch of offensive linemen, I'd love to see them go for a wide receiver in this year's draft. Find somebody to put up there with them. And I think it really opens the doors for a great season for the Steelers. I think Trubisky is going to be a great quarterback, and I liked what he was in Chicago. And when he had to sit backseat to Josh Allen, I hope it relights a flame underneath him and he comes out hot this season, especially starts things out with a bang. I'd love to see Mitch do something.
Plus, he's a kid from Mentor. I've always liked him. He's from Ohio.
Not to mention the MVP.
Oh yeah, the MVP. But. Yeah, we'll see how it works. A lot of people don't like it, but I don't care what they think.
I told you yesterday, Pittsburgh people complain about everything. So
I know.
Just like Cleveland.
I'm like they're complaining about Rudolph. They're complaining about.
This is what's great right now. On my side with Cleveland, right now, Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are meeting with Deshaun Watson on potentially signing him and replacing Baker Mayfield. And now you got all the fans that were like, "Get Baker out of here. We don't want him." Going, "How could you sign another quarterback?" It's like, oh my God, the
I'll tell you what
of Browns fans right now. It's a slap. By both sides. It's like, are you serious? You wanted to start quarterback? To me, the one big thing. Yes, there were charges against Deshaun Watson, but they were all thrown out. There was no case in this. He might face a suspension from the league for, kind of the publicity kind of being bad. But isn't this country based on the fact, guilty until innocent until proven guilty? There was no
there's
case.
Always second chances.
Yeah, there's a lot of people talking. A lot of people talk all the time. We're in a country based on the principle of you're innocent. So unless this is going to come out to an actual case where he gets proven guilty, what can you really say? I want a quarterback that's going to win games. If Deshaun Watson's going to win games, then I want him. Is this a bad look for the Browns? Yeah, but so was Kareem Hunt. So we Browns fans embraced him as soon as he started scoring touchdowns. If Deshaun Watson comes out,
he's going to be gone.
In his start gets it to the playoffs and gets us to an AFC Championship game, I bet your booty that a bunch of Browns fans are going to be wearing Watson.
Well, I don't know
in the next season.
I don't know if it was you or if I saw it online somewhere on Twitter, but if they're serious about this Deshaun Watson stuff, like the reports are, they better get him because. You're not going to get him, and then you have to turn back to Baker and say, "Oh, we tried to find somebody, but didn't fill through, so we're back to you now." That's a slap in the face of Baker.
Come and snag him.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it here for another edition of the Casual Sports Podcast. Stay tuned for Power Hour coming up next. That doesn't here. I'm Alek, Koberna, Matt Morrison, Mike Wolfgang. Come on back tomorrow for more March Madness. We're in the final days till the start of the big dance. That'll do it from us here. The Casual Sports Podcast. We'll see you tomorrow.